And we're going to start with the next portion of text. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. Asl, original text. ثم الإشارة, then there is the demonstrative nominal. So probably ismul ishara would be translated into English as demonstrative pronoun. Now I'm going to refrain from calling it a pronoun. Ismul ishara is not a damir in Arabic. It's not a pronoun. So I'm going to reserve the English word pronoun for damir. And I'm going to call this and the one that's going to come afterwards al-ismul mawsul, nominals. This is the demonstrative nominal. Demonstrative here means pointing. Yani, ishara means pointing, to point to something. وَهِيَ ذَا لِلْمُذَكَّرِ, it is that for the masculine. So you're pointing at something. That or this. وَذِي وَذِهِ وَتِي وَتِهِ وَتَا لِلْمُؤَنَّثِ. And you have all of these words for the feminine, singular. The, so you can point at something feminine and say the, or thee, or dee, or dihi, or da. وَذَانِ وَتَانِ لِلْمُثَنَّى, and dhani for masculine, and tani for feminine, dual. So you want to point at two things. Dhani, those two, or these two. Tani, those two, or these two, feminine. بِالْأَلِفِ رَفْعًا وَبِالْيَاءِ جَرًّا وَنَصْبًا. It's going to have an alif if it's in the state of rafa', like here, dhani and tani. If it's in the state of nasb or jar, you're going to say dhaini or taini. وَأُولَا لِجَمْعِهِمَا, and to point to three or more, masculine or feminine, you say ula, those, or these, without pronouncing that wow there. That wow is silent. It's not ula, it's just ula. So this is one of those conventions that the old Arabs needed. The old Arabs, they didn't have harakat and other things like that, slashes and whatever you want to call them. They didn't need that to read, but sometimes they needed something. Every now and then they needed something. Like, how did the old Arabs without any harakat tell the difference between Omar and Amr? Omar and Amr, if it's written there. And there's no harakat invented. So they don't have anything. So if it's written there, there's no way to know. Both of those are masculine names with the same letters, different vowels, and vowel slashes haven't been invented yet. So then for Amr, they added a wow. They don't say it, they just write it so that you know it's Amr. Now there are harakats who will say Umar. So then there's a question. Now that there are vowel slashes that have been invented, should we just say Amr and drop the wow? We say no, we're going to keep it. We're not going to alter the language this way. But some Christian Arabs who study Arabic, they propose dropping that wow because of the presence of harakat. Also, the Arabs, for example, they wrote mi'ah with an alif. Mi'ah. But if there weren't any harakat, how would that be? Would look like that. Mi'ah. That's how it would look to them. That's how they would write it, so you know it's mi'ah. That alif, you don't say it. Why? So that they don't confuse it with minhu. Minhu. Because if you take off the harakat and the dots, it's going to look like that. And if you write mi'ah the way it sounds only, you're going to write it like this. Because it would be like this. Mi'ah, mi'ah, mi'ah. So same question. Now that we have harakat, should we just drop that alif out of there and write it like this? No, we're not going to do that. The Muslims are going to preserve the language here. So here, this wow is that one, so that they can read the word properly. أولاء والبعيد بالكاف مجردة من اللام مطلقا. Now, the thing that you point at that's far away, al-ba'id, the far thing that you're pointing at, and should be clear for you, you don't have to literally raise your hand and lift your finger to point. The word itself has that meaning. So you can just say hadha, you don't have to point your finger. But you notice here, we didn't say ha, we just said that. Because you might be familiar with hadha, hadha. Or you might be familiar with dhalik, dhalik. So we didn't say leak, we just said that. So he's going to talk about that now. وَالْبَعِيدُ بِالْكَافِ مُجَرَّدَةً مِنَ اللَّامِ مُطْلَقًا. The far thing that you're pointing to is with a kaf. If you want to, in particular, point to something far, add a kaf without a lam. So you can say dhaka, dhaka, mutlaqan, absolutely. أو مقرونة بها, or with a lam, so you could say dhalika, dhalika, but don't write the alif. ذلك إلا في المثنى مطلقا وفي الجمع في لغة من مده. Except for the dual, absolutely. Yani, you don't say, he's going to explain. وفيما تقدمته هات تنبيه. And for what has a hat in front of it also. Hat, the hat of alert. The hat of notice. Yani هذا. You don't say هذا ليك. He will explain better than me. الشرح, the explanation. الثالث من أنواع المعارف. The third type of definite word is اسم الإشارة, the demonstrative nominal. وينقسم بحسب المشار إليه إلى ثلاثة أقسام. And depending on what's being pointed at, al-musharu ilayhi, what's being pointed at, depending on what's being pointed at, this nominal has three divisions. ما يشار به للمفرد, that by which you point at a single thing. وَمَا يُشَارُ بِهِ لِلْمُثَنَّى, that by which you point at two things. وَمَا يُشَارُ بِهِ لِلْجَمَاعَةِ, and that by which you point at three or more things. وَكُلٌّ مِّنْ هَذِهِ الثَّلَاثَةِ يَنْقَسِمُ إِلَى مُذَكَّرٍ وَمُؤَنَّثٍ, and all of these three, singular, dual, and plural, are masculine or feminine. فَلِلْمُفْرَدِ الْمُذَكَّرِ لَفْظَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ وَهِيَ ذَا. For the singular masculine, there is a single expression only. That. So when you say, as he's going to tell us, هذا, it's really that. When you say ذلك, it's really that. وَلِلْمُفْرَدِ الْمُؤَنَّثَةِ عَشَرَةُ أَلْفَاظ, and for the feminine singular, there are 10 expressions. That's how vast Arabic is. خَمْسَةٌ مَبْدُوءَةٌ بِالذَّالِ, 5 of them start with the letter ذال. وَهِي, they are the, وَذِهِ بِالْإِشْبَاعِ. So the, and then he says bil ishba', he means, because you can say wadhihi, this one it's missing here. Dhihi, ishba' means to make it full, like to satiate it. When you eat something and then you're full, shabi'ta, you say shabi'at, I'm full. So whoever made you full, ashba'aka, he did ishba' to you, made you full, satisfied you, satiated you. So you can say dhihi, this one, dhal ha, and you can satiate that ha, you can fill it up, and you can say dhihi, fill it up, yani stretch out the vowel. That's the meaning of al-ishba'. Bil kasr. You'll see other examples of ishba'. Like, for example, you know how when you recite the Quran, you could say, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ, عِنْدَهُ, that extension there. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا, right there, عِلْمِهِ, that extension there. That's ishba'. And other cases too. You'd say, for example, فَعَلْتُمْ, فَعَلْتُمْ, you did. That's masculine plural. Addressee. Antum, that's antum, you did. So what if you want to add the object? It. فَعَلْتُ, فَعَلْتُمْ, what would you say? You'd add a wow here. You'd say فَعَلْتُمُوهُ, فَعَلْتُمُوهُ. What's that? That's ishba'. So it's just to give you some background there, or a couple examples for you. So he says, for the feminine, you can say the and dhihi bil ishba', filling up the vowel. For dhihi bil kasr, with the kasra here, dhihi. Wa dhih bil iskan, and you can say dhih with the sukoon on the hat, bil iskan, with the sukoon. Yani devowelizing that hat, So you can point at something feminine and say the. Make sure you pronounce your hat though. The. وَذَاتُ وَهِيَ أَغْرَبُهَا. And that too, which is the strangest of them. That's the most alien amongst them. But sounds like English though, right? You say that. Now some of those I never heard anyone use them ever, but they are documented in the books. So you might hear someone say tilka. He's going to mention. We didn't talk about the ones that start with ta, or maybe dhihi from hadihi. Take off the ha. Dhihi. But all these other ones, the. I never heard anyone use them. But what would the students of knowledge do when they learn these things? They go to class and then they learn new things. Then they start using them. And then who knows, and who doesn't know what he's saying. It's like fun. But if you go out into the public talking like that, a person won't know what you're saying, even if he's an Arab. In fact, in some Arab countries, if you go out in the public speaking just correct Arabic, they're going to find you strange. They're going to know you're a foreigner because they all speak their local slang languages, their local dialects. No one is walking around speaking Fusha. Yani very rarely. No one here means almost no one. Imagine you're in, I don't know where all of you are from here listening to the lesson, but imagine you're in inner urban area, and then while you're just walking down the avenue, someone comes says, "Excuse me, chap, would you by chance be able to inform me of how I could arrive at such and such place?" You'd be like, "What? Where are you from?" Because nobody talks like that. He says, وَإِنَّمَا الْمَشْهُورُ اسْتِعْمَالُ ذَاتُ بِمَعْنَى صَاحِبَهُ. Rather, what's famous is using that to mean the one who has, for a female though, like dhu. You know, dhu in Arabic means sahib, the one who has something. But really, the translation is versatile. When I say the one who has, that's just kind of something I want to say here to keep it easy. Depends on what you're saying. If you say Sahibul Kitab means the author of the book. Sahibul Mal, the owner of the money. And you can put it in different places, Sahib, and then the translation is going to come out different. So the one who has, or the one attributed with something. So he's saying the famous usage of that is as the feminine of dhu. Dhu, one of the 5 nominals, al-asma' al-khamsa. We learned about them. Kakolik, like for you to say dhatu jamal, one of beauty, but that's feminine. Dhatu jamal, one of beauty. A woman of beauty, who has beauty, that is. Oh, bima'na allati, or another more famous usage for that is with the meaning of allati. She who, that's not pointing. That's relative nominal, which we're going to come to. في لغة بعض طي, according to the dialect of some of the people of Tayy, they would say that with the meaning of allati. حكى الفراء بالفضل ذو فضلكم الله به والكرامة ذات أكرمكم الله بها أي التي. Ibn Hisham logs something that Al-Farra cited. Because these are the linguists now. What will they do? They'll give you examples that they have acquired in language. So Al-Farra, he cited a statement that it said, بِالْفَضْلِ ذُو فَضَّلَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِهِ أي بِالْفَضْلِ الَّذِي فَضَّلَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِهِ وَالْكَرَامَةُ ذَاتُ أَكْرَمَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِهَا أي وَالْكَرَامَةُ الَّتِي أَكْرَمَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِهَا. So it means, here, ذو means الذي, by the generosity, الذي, that, or by which Allah has honored you. وَالْكَرَامَةُ ذَاتُ أَيْ الَّتِي أَكْرَمَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِهَا, and by the nobility by which Allah has honored you. So if you understand the Arabic, then inshallah that's clear. أي التي أكرمكم الله بها فلها حينئذ ثلاثة استعمالات. And so that then has three usages. That. So that could be ism Ishaarah, that means the, or it could be ism Mawsul, that means allati, or it could be the feminine of dhu, the one who has. وَخَمْسَةٌ مَبْدُوءَةٌ بِالتَّاءِ. And then there are 5 feminine singular demonstrative nominals that start with ta. وَهِيَ تِي وَتِهِ بِالْإِشْبَاعِ وَتِهِ بِالْكَسْرِ وَتِهِ بِالْإِسْكَانِ وَتَا. They are these that I just read for you. Ti, tihi, with the filled up vowel. Tihi, without a filled up vowel. Tih, with sukoon, and ta. So an example, what would a student do when he learns that? He'd go back and he'd be amongst his peers after school. And then he would say, instead of saying havihi, which is everyone understands, he'd say ti. And then whoever doesn't know, which is a lot, probably most of them, they're going to be like, huh? Especially if they're new or lower level. And huh? What are you talking about? What does that mean? And then he will explain. Or even if he does know, but since it's not commonly used, wouldn't register for him. He's ti. You say, huh? What do you say? Yani al hadihi. Nah, yes. وَلِتَثْنِيَةِ الْمُذَكَّرِ ذَانِ بِالْأَلِفِ رَفْعًا. And for the masculine dual, there's dhani with an alif if it's in a state of rafa'. كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, like when Allah says, فَذَانِكَ بُرْهَانٌ. Those two are an evidence. ذَانِكَ, those two are an evidence. وَذَيْنِ بِالْيَاءِ جَرًّا وَنَصْبًا. And for the dual masculine, you do say dhaini with a ya in the states of jar or nasb. كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى رَبَّنَا أَرِنَا اللَّذَيْنِ. So here the author says, may Allah have mercy on him, كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى رَبَّنَا أَرِنَا اللَّذَيْنِ. That's the example he gives for dhaini. But that's a mistake though, because al-ladhaini is different from dhaini. This is al-ladhaini. That's ism mawsul, not ism Ishaarah. In the Quran, what I learned here, I have my notes that I wrote by my hand, is that there is no example in the Quran for dhaini, the ism Ishaarah, in the dual form with a ya. So there's that. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. May Allah raise the rank of this author. He had benefited us very much. But subhanallah, he slipped here. So that happens. That happens from the masters. And yani, he probably reviewed his book too. He probably, this is not just one draft. He wrote it, khalas, I'm done. It's good. Now let's pass it on. Maybe even was read on him. Allahu a'lam, I don't know. How did the mistake, he didn't catch it. How he didn't catch it. But he didn't. Apparently he didn't. Unless this is an old version. He really has a version where he caught it, but the old version got out. Maybe he caught it, but his correction wasn't recorded and then passed on, for example. Could happen. I know that just because I write books and things, so you make a correction, someone will have an old version of what you did. Well, Allah knows. Anyway, it's not correct. May Allah have mercy on him and raise his rank. Ameen. وَلِتَثْنِيَةِ الْمُؤَنَّثِ تَانِي. And for the dual feminine, there's tani bil alif raf'an, with an alif in the state of rafa'. كَقَوْلِكَ جَاءَتْنِي هَاتَانِ جَاءَتْنِي هَاتَانِ كَقَوْلِكَ جَاءَتْنِي هَاتَانِ. Like for you to say that sentence. جَاءَتْنِي هَاتَانِ. These two came to me, but it's feminine. So you already know the Arabic is going to be more indicative of the gender than the English by far. So these two, when you say it in English, the gender doesn't appear, male or female. When you say it in Arabic, hatan, then it's feminine. وَهَاتَيْنِ بِالْيَاءِ جَرًّا وَنَصْبًا. And hataini with a ya in the states of jar and nasb.
كقوله تعالى إحدى ابنتي هاتين.
Like when Allah says, citing Prophet Shu'aib, when he was talking to Musa, and he told Musa, I want to give you in marriage to one of these two daughters of mine.
إحدى ابنتي هاتين.
One of these two daughters of mine. Because you know in the story of Musa, alayhi salatu wassalam, when he fled Egypt, and he made it to the city of Midian. And at first he stopped at a tree, and then he saw two women, and they were having trouble keeping their flock under control in the midst of men who were shepherds. They wanted to let their flock drink, but they couldn't even compete with the men. And then when the men finished, they covered the water hole with a big rock, which is what they used to do. That was normal for them. And then the women weren't even able to water their flock. And then Musa, alayhi salatu wassalam, he said to them, what do you want? They said, we want to water our flocks. But, they said, our father, he's an old man. He can't do it. He doesn't have sons who can do it for him. So we want to water our flock, but we can't do it until the shepherds go back because they're men. So then he helped them and he lifted that rock by himself because he had superhuman strength, alayhi salatu wassalam. And then he watered their flock for them. And then they went back home and he sat back under his tree, alayhi salatu wassalam. And then one of them came back shyly saying to him, my father wants to reward you for what you did for us. So then she took him back home. And first he was following her. But then when the wind blew and pressed her clothing against her body and he could see, and then the shape of her body was visible. So he told her, walk behind me and point the way out for me. So she did that, and then he got there and he met Shu'aib alayhi salatu wassalam. It's not a consensus that that's Prophet Shu'aib though, but we go by the saying that it was. And so at one point, Shu'aib said to Musa alayhi salatu wassalam, I want to give you in marriage to one of these two daughters of mine. Ihda ibnatay hatain. And that statement, the way he worded it, it implies that he has other daughters, but those are not an option for Musa, just these two, which were the two that he helped. وَلِجَمْعِ الْمُذَكَّرِ وَالْمُؤَنَّثِ أُولَاء. And for plural, masculine and feminine, there's ula. قال تعالى, Allah Ta'ala says, وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And those, they are the successful. وَقَالَ تَعَالَى, and Allah says, هَؤُلَاءِ بَنَاتِي, citing what Prophet Lut said. He said, those are my daughters. So what did the author do here? He gave us an example for the masculine and the feminine. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ. Hum, that's masculine. Hunna is feminine. So أُولَٰئِكَ hum. So that's for masculine. But women could be included in there. And also, هَؤُلَاءِ بَنَاتِي. Ula banati, those are my daughters. So it's feminine then. That's what Lut said, alayhi salatu wassalam, when the homosexuals were attempting to break into his house to assault his guests. And he said to them, Ha'ula'i banati, these are my daughters, meaning, why don't you marry women? Here are women for you to marry. وَبَنُو تَمِيمٍ يَقُولُونَ Ula. And the clan of Tamim, they say Ula. Bil qasr, shortened. That means without a hamza after the alif. Here's the alif. Alif written like a ya. There's no hamza after it, so that's called maqsoor, an alif without a hamza after it. So when it has alif after it, it's called mamdud, extended, not shortened. وقد أشرت إلى هذه اللغة بما ذكرته بعد من أن اللام لا تلحقه في لغة من مده. Ibn Hisham says, I signaled to this dialect by what I mentioned later, that the lam does not attach according to the dialect of those who put a hamza after the alif. Man maddahu, who extends the alif, means puts a hamza after the alif in his dialect. ثم المشار إليه إما أن يكون قريبا أو بعيدا. Furthermore, what's being pointed at could either be close or far. فإن كان قريبا جيء باسم الإشارة مجردا من الكاف وجوبا. If it's close, then the demonstrative nominal is produced, devoid of a kaf, necessarily. You know, wujuban here means for language, not for fiqh. That means since it's close, you don't say dhaka with a kaf if it's close. Dhaka wa maqrunan biha tanbih jawazan. And if it's close, it is permissibly accompanied by the ha, the word ha of alert, Ha of alert, of notice. So you say ha, that's like saying alert, notice. So ha if it's close. Ha. You don't have to put ha though. It's permissible. It's not necessary. So you could just say that. And you can put that ha on other things like ha antum. You. Ha antum. The ha is for alert. Ha alif. That's a particle. Ha alif. It's not the letter ha. It's two letters. Ha. هذا ha antum. You could say ha ana for yourself. I. Ha ana. You're drawing attention or making an alert. تقول جاءني هذا. You say جاءني هذا. This came to me. This one. وجاءني ذا. Or you could say, instead of هذا, ذا جاءني ذا. This one came to me. ويعلم أن التنبيه أنها التنبيه. Hold on. Here, this hamza shouldn't be there. It's not the letter ha. If you put that hamza there, it's the letter ha. It's a single letter. That's not what's intended here. It's a complete particle. Ha. Two letters. Ha. It's not the name of the letter ha. But it could be said, though. It might be said, ha'u tanbih. You could say that, but we're not going to say that. And that's not how I read it. وَيُعْلَمُ أَنَّهَا التَّنْبِيهَ أَنَّهَا التَّنْبِيهِ ويعلم أنها التنبيه تلحق اسم الإشارة بما ذكرته بعد من أنها إذا لحقته لم تلحقه لام البعد. And it is known that ha of alert comes along with, it prefixes to the demonstrative nominal. According to what I mentioned later. And if it does, then the lam of farness does not attach. So you wouldn't say hadha lika with the lam on there. وَإِنْ كَانَ بَعِيدًا وَجَبَ اقْتِرَانُهُ بِالْكَافِ. But if what you're pointing at is far, then it's necessary to suffix the kaf. إِمَّا مُجَرَّدَةً مِنَ اللَّامِ نَحْوُ ذَاكَ أو مَقْرُونَةً بِهَا نَحْوُ ذَلِكَ. Either without the lam, so you can say ذَاكَ, pointing at something far, or with the lam, so you can say ذَلِكَ. وَتَمْتَنِعُ اللَّامُ فِي ثَلَاثِ مَسَائِلٍ. And the lam is forbidden or not possible. The lam is not possible. We're talking linguistically here. When we say not possible, doesn't mean in aqidah. Impossible according to aqidah, not talking like that. This is language. وَتَمْتَنِعُ اللَّامُ فِي ثَلَاثِ مَسَائِلٍ. And lam is not possible in three cases. إِحْدَاهَا الْمُثَنَّى. One of them is the dual. تَقُولُ ذَانِكَ وَتَانِكَ. So you would say ذَانِكَ for masculine or تَانِكَ for feminine. وَلَا يُقَالُ ذَانِي لِكَ وَلَا تَانِي لِكَ. And you wouldn't say dhani lika or tani lika. You can't attach the lam here. الثانية الجمع في لغة من مده. The second case is the plural according to the dialect of whoever put a hamza after the alif. Taqul, then you could say ulaika, ulaika, ulaika. ولا يجوز أولئي أولئي لك أولئي لك or أولئي لك. So you can say أولئك, يعني with a calf, and you don't say أولئي لك or أولئي لك with the lamb. ومن قصره قال أولئك. But who doesn't put a hamza? Any dialect that doesn't put a hamza after the alif, they could put the lam, and they'd say ulalik. الثالثة إذا تقدمت عليها التنبيه. And the third case is if the is إذا تقدمت عليها الثالثة إذا تقدمت عليها التنبيه. The third case is if the ha of alert or notice is prefixed. تقول هذاك ولا يجوز هذلك. So you could say هذاك. You have the ha and you have the calf, but you can't put the lam. So you don't say هذلك. Wallahu a'lam. That's the end of that chapter. What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? If you learn an ayah from the Quran, then that's more rewardable than praying 100 rak'ahs, sunnah prayers. And if you learn a chapter of knowledge, that's more rewardable than praying 1,000 rak'ahs of sunnah prayers. I ask Allah Ta'ala to reward us and to multiply that reward up to 700 times or more. Ameen. By His generosity. Do you have any question I can answer for you?